Is Marvel really just about heroes and villains? Or is there something more? A hidden layer of secrets, mysteries, and dark truths that change everything we think we know. Fans have spent years uncovering hidden connections, truths buried beneath the surface of the MCU, perhaps. But there's something deeper that keeps fans coming back. The mysteries. For decades, fans have questioned, theorized, and pieced together the hidden meanings behind the Marvel Universe. From Tony Stark's true motivations to the real purpose of the Infinity Stones, these stories have sparked 1,000 what-ifs, and some have turned into full-blown theories that challenge everything we think we know about Marvel. We're diving into the most convincing Marvel theories out there, the ones that make you pause, rethink, and maybe, just maybe, believe they were part of Kevin Feige's plan all along. From the quirky possibility that Stan Lee was actually the Watcher to the chilling idea that Thanos was right all along, there's no shortage of fascinating twists. So whether you're a casual fan or a die-hard Marvel enthusiast, sit back and join me as we uncover the most mind-bending theories that might just change the way you see the MCU forever. The darkest secret of the MCU: Thanos was right all along. The theory that Thanos was actually justified in his actions is without doubt one of the most controversial and mind-bending fan theories in the Marvel Universe. At first glance, it seems ridiculous. Thanos, a hero. It's a hard pill to swallow, but the more you examine the evidence, the more this theory seems to carry some weight. Thanos, with his grim demeanor and often terrifying methods, could very well have been hiding a deeper truth, one that even the Avengers couldn't fully comprehend. First, let's take a look at his role in the cosmic landscape of the MCU. Thanos is introduced as a being obsessed with balance, someone who finds himself caught up in the larger universal conflict almost by accident. However, as the story progresses, Thanos' influence begins to grow in ways that seem disproportionate to his stated goals. In Infinity War, Thanos holds the power to reshape reality itself. It's here that he makes the fateful decision to wipe out half of all life in the universe, effectively giving himself the burden of becoming the universe's most hated being. This moment is pivotal. Why would someone as calculated and intelligent as Thanos choose such a drastic solution with little explanation of the alternatives? According to the theory, this wasn't a random act of cruelty. It was a calculated move by someone operating with knowledge beyond what the heroes possessed. But what if Thanos' plan was never about overpopulation at all? What if it was about stopping something far worse, something the Avengers never saw coming? The Celestials, the ancient cosmic beings revealed in Eternals, require immense population growth for their emergence. If left unchecked, planets like Earth would eventually birth Celestials, leading to the destruction of entire civilizations. What if Thanos knew this? What if his snap wasn't just about resource management, but a desperate attempt to delay a catastrophe far greater than overpopulation? By cutting populations in half, he may have bought time. Time that the Avengers unknowingly erased when they reversed his actions. But Thanos wasn't the only one playing God. There was another force lurking in the shadows, carefully shaping events across time itself: Kang the Conqueror. What if Thanos was just a pawn in a far larger cosmic chess game? The snap may have held Kang's timeline together, keeping his rule stable. If Thanos had never wiped out half of existence, perhaps Kang's empire would have collapsed far sooner. Could it be that Thanos, in some twisted way, was the one thing standing between the multiverse and total war? With a single snap, Thanos didn't just balance the universe, he chose who got to survive it. Another key point supporting this theory comes from Thanos' uncanny ability to predict resource depletion and population collapse. In Infinity War, there's a scene where Thanos explains to Gamora how her home planet prospered after his intervention. While the heroes dismiss this as justification for genocide, what if Thanos was telling the truth? This scene might seem like villainous monologuing, but some fans believe it hints at something more profound. Could it be that Thanos, rather than being deluded, was actually correct in his assessment? The timing of his intervention and the results he claims occurred feel too specific to be mere rationalization. And then there's the question of his ability to wield the Infinity Stones. In Endgame, we see that even the Hulk, a being with nearly limitless strength, struggles to use the gauntlet without suffering devastating injuries. Tony Stark, despite his genius, barely survives long enough to snap his fingers. Yet Thanos, he wields the stones multiple times with no hesitation, no fatal consequences, until the very end. At first glance, this could be explained by sheer physical resilience, but what if it was something more? What if the Infinity Stones themselves only allow their power to be truly harnessed by those with an unshakable sense of purpose? We've seen evidence of this before. In Guardians of the Galaxy, the Power Stone nearly kills Peter Quill, but he manages to withstand it, only after holding hands with his team, forming a unified will. The Soul Stone, on the other hand, requires a true sacrifice, one that carries emotional and existential weight. This suggests that the stones don't just operate on raw strength alone, they demand conviction. And that brings us back to Thanos. Unlike Stark, whose final snap was an act of desperate defiance, or Hulk, who struggled with the immense burden, Thanos wielded the stones calmly, without hesitation. Was this because in his own mind, he truly believed he was doing the right thing? If the stones respond to willpower, purpose, and certainty, then Thanos, unshaken in his belief that he was saving the universe, may have been the perfect wielder. Contrast this with Red Skull. He sought the Tesseract's power, yet the stones denied him, and instead condemned him to a cursed existence as the guardian of the Soul Stone. Why could Thanos claim the ultimate power, while Red Skull was cast aside? Perhaps the stones do not just choose based on power, but on whether the wielder believes without a doubt that their actions serve a higher purpose. So what if in the end, Thanos wasn't just strong enough to wield the Infinity Stones? What if the stones let him? The hidden truth behind the snap Thanos' physicality throughout the films defies logic for someone of his supposed moral standing. He's portrayed as a villain, constantly fighting against the heroes, and yet he shows mercy repeatedly. During the Battle of Wakanda, Thanos could have killed all the Avengers who stood in his way, but instead, he merely incapacitates them, using the minimum force necessary to achieve his goal. What if these were not acts of arrogance or overconfidence? What if Thanos was using restraint deliberately, knowing that the universe would need heroes after his work was done? In this context, his survival strategy becomes less about cruelty and more about necessary sacrifice. Then there's the question of his ability to influence others. In Infinity War, Thanos convinces Gamora to reveal the location of the Soul Stone through what appears to be torture of Nebula. This moment is subtle but shows how susceptible even the strongest-willed are to Thanos' logic. Now consider Thanos in Endgame when he realizes the Avengers are trying to undo his work. His speech is passionate and convinced, yet it works. He nearly defeats them all. Some supporters of the theory suggest that Thanos may have been using a form of cosmic truth, similar to Doctor Strange's insights into possible futures, to subtly influence those around him. An important part of this theory also touches on the idea that the MCU originally intended for Thanos to be revealed as a misunderstood savior, but this plotline was abandoned due to the overwhelmingly negative reception to the character as a villain. While there is no concrete evidence to back up this claim, the Russo brothers have gone on record saying that Thanos was meant to be a complex antagonist with understandable motivations. Thanos' single-mindedness, his seeming lack of personal ambition beyond his mission, and his frequent proximity to cosmic power make him an ideal candidate for someone operating with a higher purpose. The fact that he destroys the stones after completing his mission suggests he wasn't seeking power for himself. He was completing a task he viewed as necessary, regardless of the personal cost. The stark reality: Tony created Ultron to prepare Earth for Thanos. The theory that Tony Stark deliberately created Ultron as a response to a greater threat is one of the more chilling ideas to emerge from the Marvel saga. It reinterprets Tony's entire existence, turning him from a hero of impulse into the result of dark calculation. While Age of Ultron only hints at this possibility, it's easy to see why fans latched onto the idea there are just too many coincidences surrounding Ultron's creation for it to be purely accidental. In Age of Ultron, Tony tells Bruce Banner the story of his vision, his former fear. According to Tony, he saw a future where all the Avengers were dead and Earth was defenseless against an alien invasion. Tony's tone during this conversation is almost conspiratorial, as if he's dropping hints to Bruce without fully revealing his hand. Could Tony have learned about Thanos' impending arrival and used it to manipulate Bruce into helping create Ultron? Tony's motivations have always been layered with paranoia and foresight. His near-death experience in the Avengers, carrying a nuclear missile through the wormhole, didn't just change him, it may have given him a glimpse of what was coming. This traumatic experience has long been seen as the trigger for his PTSD and subsequent obsession with creating defensive systems. But what if this wasn't just trauma? What if Tony glimpsed something on the other side of that wormhole, perhaps a hint of Thanos and his plans? The theory suggests that Tony, perhaps even before the events of Age of Ultron, had become aware of the threat Thanos posed and was desperately trying to prepare Earth's defenses. This would make Ultron not the product of Tony's hubris, but rather the result of a calculated risk designed to protect Earth from an existential threat. If Tony did create Ultron with knowledge of Thanos, it would completely reframe his actions throughout the MCU. Rather than being a reckless inventor whose creations often backfire, Tony would be a strategic planner, making difficult choices for the greater good. This would add a tragic layer to Tony's story, turning him into a man carrying the weight of future knowledge that no one else possessed. The deeper meaning behind "I am Iron Man." There are several moments in the MCU that, when viewed through the lens of this theory, seem to support the idea that Tony had a direct hand in preparing Earth for Thanos' arrival. Tony's obsessive interest in advanced technology is one of them. From the moment we meet Tony in Iron Man, he's pushing the boundaries of what's possible, creating increasingly sophisticated suits and defense systems. In Age of Ultron, Tony continues this pattern, developing technologies that seem excessive for the threats the Avengers have faced so far. By the time Civil War rolls around, Tony's preparation has reached new heights, with his development of nanotechnology that will eventually be crucial in the fight against Thanos. But Tony's manipulation goes beyond just technology. The theory suggests that Tony had a vested interest in keeping the Avengers together, even as internal conflicts threatened to tear them apart. In Civil War, when the team fractures over the Sokovia Accords, Tony doesn't simply let the dissenters go, he actively tries to bring them back into the fold, albeit through controversial means. In Infinity War, when Tony recounts his fears to Doctor Strange, he does so with an air of satisfaction, as if he's not just telling a story, but revealing his own involvement in Earth's preparation. Tony tells Strange that he's been preparing for Thanos' arrival for years, but he doesn't mention how he knew Thanos was coming. Yet the implication is clear: if Tony had foreknowledge of Thanos, then it stands to reason that Ultron's creation was not an accident but part of Tony's grand design all along. Tony's extreme dedication to saving the universe also raises questions about his motivations. From a young age, Tony exhibits an unprecedented level of genius, something that even his father was unsure how to handle. If Tony truly was preparing for Thanos' arrival, then this would explain why he is so uniquely driven. It was no accident. Tony may have been crafting the ultimate defense system from the very start. The Watcher in Plain Sight. Stan Lee's true identity. The theory that Stan Lee was actually playing the Watcher in all his MCU cameos offers a practical interpretation of his recurring appearances. It emphasizes the internal consistency of the MCU, shedding light on how a seemingly random series of cameos might actually be part of a deeper narrative. To understand this theory, we need to first consider what the Watchers actually are. Established in the comics as ancient beings who observe the universe but are forbidden from interfering, the Watchers have a unique role in Marvel lore. They are cosmic entities who witness and record events throughout the multiverse, maintaining a strict policy of non-intervention. At first glance, Stan Lee's cameos seem like fun Easter eggs, a tribute to the legendary co-creator of Marvel's greatest heroes. But what if they were something more? What if every time we saw him, he wasn't just a bystander, but the Watcher himself, silently recording the events that shaped the MCU? The strongest supporting point for this theory is the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where Stan Lee is explicitly shown conversing with other Watchers. In this scene, Lee is recounting his experiences as a FedEx delivery man, a reference to his cameo in Captain America: Civil War, suggesting that his various appearances throughout the MCU are actually the same character in different disguises. This perspective changes how we interpret Stan Lee's cameos. Rather than being random characters, each appearance becomes a moment where the Watcher is present to observe a significant event in the universe. From Tony Stark's public revelation as Iron Man to the Battle of New York, the Watcher is there, documenting these pivotal moments for cosmic records. The cosmic observer's many faces, Stan Lee's physicality throughout the films defies logic for someone who would be aging normally. His cameos span decades of in-universe time, yet he always appears as a spry, enthusiastic older gentleman. What if this consistency wasn't just because it was Stan Lee playing himself, but because he was portraying an immortal being who could take any form? During the Battle of New York in The Avengers, Stan Lee makes a cameo as a chess player, dismissing the alien invasion as typical New York. This moment is subtle but shows how the Watcher might view even cataclysmic events with a sense of cosmic perspective. Now consider Stan Lee in Thor: Ragnarok, when he appears as a barber on Saka. His speech is quirky and humorous, yet it works. He manages to be present at a crucial moment in Thor's journey. Some supporters of the theory suggest that the Watcher may have been using these seemingly random appearances to subtly influence events, bending but not breaking his vow of non-intervention. An important part of this theory also touches on the idea that Marvel Studios originally intended for Stan Lee to be revealed as the Watcher in a more explicit way, but this plotline was kept subtle out of respect for the character's comic book origins. While there is no concrete evidence to back up this claim, Kevin Feige has gone on record saying that Stan Lee's cameos were meant to be more than just fun appearances. Stan Lee's consistent presence at pivotal moments, his seeming agelessness, and his explicit connection to the Watchers in Guardians Volume 2 make him an ideal candidate for a cosmic observer, hiding in plain sight. The fact that he appears in moments of both triumph and tragedy suggests he wasn't just making random appearances, he was documenting the full spectrum of the MCU's history. The multiverse manipulation, Doctor Strange's darkest choice. The theory that Doctor Strange deliberately chose the one timeline where Tony Stark dies adds a profound layer of moral ambiguity to his character. It suggests that Strange wasn't just looking for any victory against Thanos, but a specific victory that would reshape the Avengers and the power dynamics of Earth. In Infinity War, Strange uses the Time Stone to view 14,605 possible futures, finding only one where they succeed against Thanos. The theory proposes that Strange saw multiple paths to victory, but deliberately chose the one that required Tony's sacrifice. Why? Because Strange recognized that Tony's continued existence posed its own dangers to the universe. let's examine the evidence. Throughout the MCU, Tony Stark demonstrates an increasing God complex. From creating Ultron to the Sokovia Accords, Tony repeatedly makes unilateral decisions that affect the entire world. His technological innovations, while often well-intentioned, consistently create new threats. By Civil War, Tony has positioned himself as the arbiter of who should have power and how it should be used, a dangerous position for any one person to hold. The theory suggests that Strange, with his ability to see the future, realized that a world where Tony Stark lived after defeating Thanos wouldn't stay at peace for long. Whether through his own actions or the ripple effects of his technology, Tony might have created new threats even more dangerous than Thanos. By choosing the timeline where Tony sacrifices himself, Strange ensures not only Thanos' defeat, but also the removal of a potential future threat. This interpretation adds complexity to Strange's character, suggesting he made a coldly utilitarian choice, sacrificing Tony to save countless others from future dangers that Tony might inadvertently create. It transforms Strange from a straightforward hero into someone willing to manipulate events and people to achieve what he sees as the greater good. The calculated sacrifice considers Strange's behavior in Infinity War and Endgame through this lens. When he gives up the Time Stone to save Tony, he tells him there was no other way. This could be interpreted not just as a statement about defeating Thanos, but about the necessity of the path he's chosen, one that leads to Tony's death. In Endgame, Strange's single raised finger to Tony in the final battle takes on new meaning. It's not just signaling that this is their one chance to win, it's Strange confirming to himself that they're on the specific timeline he selected, the one where Tony doesn't survive. This theory doesn't diminish Tony's heroic sacrifice, but adds a layer of tragedy to it. Tony believes he's making a choice, but in reality, Strange has already determined his fate. It suggests that even in his moment of greatest heroism, Tony is still a piece being moved on Strange's cosmic chessboard. If true, this theory fundamentally reshapes how we view Doctor Strange. His willingness to sacrifice Tony for the greater good makes him a more morally ambiguous character, someone who sees the big picture but might lose sight of individual worth in the process. It raises questions about whether Strange has the right to make such calculations and whether the ends truly justify his means. The Winter Soldier's hidden mission. Bucky remembered everything. The theory that Bucky Barnes retained his memories throughout his time as the Winter Soldier, but was powerless to stop himself, adds a horrifying dimension to his character arc. It suggests that Bucky wasn't just a mindless assassin, he was a conscious prisoner in his own body, aware of every kill but unable to prevent them. In the MCU, Bucky is portrayed as having been brainwashed by Hydra, turned into a compliant assassin through torture and mind control. The standard interpretation is that during his missions, Bucky had no recollection of his true identity or moral compass. But what if that wasn't entirely true? The evidence for this theory lies in subtle moments throughout Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and subsequent films. When Bucky first encounters Steve on the bridge, and Steve calls him by name, there's a flicker of recognition. Who the hell is Bucky? Suggesting not complete ignorance, but rather confusion or denial. Later, when Steve reminds him of their past on the helicarrier, the air, "I'm with you till the end of the line," Bucky's expression changes dramatically, and he ultimately saves Steve from drowning. These moments suggest that Bucky's memories weren't completely erased but suppressed, occasionally breaking through the programming. The theory takes this further, proposing that Bucky was always partially aware, fighting a constant internal battle against Hydra's control. If true, this would make Bucky's story far more tragic. Imagine being trapped inside your own mind, forced to watch as your body carries out assassinations, including Howard and Maria Stark, the parents of a man he would one day call an ally. Imagine remembering your friendship with Steve Rogers while being forced to try to kill him. The psychological horror of this scenario would explain Bucky's profound guilt and his willingness to return to cryogenic sleep in Wakanda, rather than risk hurting others again. The prisoner of his own mind. This theory also explains Bucky's behavior after breaking free from Hydra's control. His immediate instinct is to learn about his victims and his past crimes, suggesting not discovery but confirmation. His notebook full of memories in Civil War indicates someone trying to organize what he already knew, rather than someone learning new information. The theory reshapes how we understand Bucky's journey from villain to hero. It's not about recovering lost memories, it's about regaining control over his own body and actions. His redemption becomes even more meaningful when we consider that he might have been fighting against Hydra's programming the entire time, even when he couldn't win that fight. If Bucky retained awareness during his time as the Winter Soldier, it would also deepen the significance of his friendship with Steve. Steve's unwavering faith in Bucky wasn't just about believing his friend could be recovered. It was about recognizing that Bucky was still in there, trapped and fighting to get out. This interpretation doesn't absolve Bucky of the Winter Soldier's actions, but it does transform our understanding of his suffering. He becomes not just a victim of mind control, but someone who endured decades of being forced to commit atrocities while fully aware of what he was doing, a special kind of hell that few characters in the MCU could comprehend. The true purpose of the Infinity Stones, cosmic balance. The theory that the Infinity Stones weren't just objects of power, but conscious entities with their own agenda, adds a cosmic dimension to the MCU's central MacGuffins. It suggests that the stones weren't merely tools to be used by beings like Thanos, but were actively participating in the universe's evolution, perhaps even orchestrating events to achieve a greater balance. Throughout the MCU, the Infinity Stones appear at pivotal moments, often changing hands in ways that seem coincidental, but could be deliberate. The Space Stone Tesseract brings Loki to Earth, setting in motion the formation of the Avengers. The Mind Stone creates both Ultron and Vision, two artificial intelligences with vastly different perspectives on humanity. The Time Stone finds its way to the Ancient One, and then to Doctor Strange, individuals uniquely positioned to safeguard reality. This theory suggests that these coincidences weren't coincidences at all. Instead, the stones were subtly exerting influence, guiding themselves to the right people at the right time, ensuring the universe's balance. As fragments of creation itself, they weren't just passive objects of power, but active forces shaping reality, not unlike the Watchers, but with the ability to intervene. Consider how the Reality Stone Aether infected Jane Foster, a human who happened to be in exactly the right place at the right time to discover it. Or how the Power Stone revealed itself on Morag just as Star-Lord arrived to steal it. These moments, viewed through the lens of this theory, become deliberate choices by the stones to move themselves into position for what was to come. The most compelling evidence for this theory comes from how the stones interact with those who wield them. The Mind Stone doesn't just give Wanda powers, it gives her specific abilities that will later be crucial in fighting Thanos. The Time Stone doesn't just show Doctor Strange possible futures, it guides him toward the one specific outcome, where balance is restored. These aren't random effects, they're calculated influences, the cosmic chess game. If the Infinity Stones are conscious entities, then the entire Infinity Saga becomes a cosmic chess game, with the stones as both pieces and players. Thanos believes he's the mastermind, collecting the stones to reshape reality, according to his vision. But what if the stones allowed themselves to be collected, because Thanos' snap, however devastating, was necessary for some greater cosmic purpose? This interpretation reframes the snap not as a tragedy, but as a calculated move in a larger game of balance. The stones, knowing that the universe was heading toward collapse due to overpopulation and resource depletion, may have guided themselves to Thanos precisely because he had the will to do what others wouldn't. Consider how the stones behave during key moments in the MCU. The Space Stone sends Red Skull to Vorma, placing him as guardian of the Soul Stone. The Time Stone shows Doctor Strange exactly 14,605 futures, guiding him to the one where balance is ultimately restored. The Reality Stone infects Jane Foster, bringing her into contact with Thor and eventually leading to its discovery by the Guardians. These aren't coincidences, they're deliberate moves by conscious entities working toward a greater purpose. If the stones are indeed sentient, it would explain why they seem to choose their wielders. Not everyone can harness their power, and those who do often share certain qualities: a strong will, a clear purpose, and the capacity to understand the stone's true nature. This selective compatibility suggests the stones aren't just tools, but discerning entities with their own criteria for who may wield them. The stone's grand design. The theory that the Infinity Stones are conscious also explains their eventual destruction. After Thanos uses them to fulfill their purpose, restoring balance to the universe, he destroys them, claiming they served no purpose beyond temptation. But what if the stones allowed themselves to be destroyed because their work was done? Their physical forms may have been eliminated, but their essence, the fundamental forces they represent, remains woven into the fabric of reality. This perspective transforms our understanding of the entire Infinity Saga. The conflict between the Avengers and Thanos wasn't just a battle between heroes and villain, it was a carefully orchestrated dance, directed by the stones themselves, with both sides playing necessary roles in a cosmic drama of balance and renewal. The stones' consciousness would also explain why they seem to remember across timelines. When the Avengers travel back in time to collect them, the stones don't resist, they let themselves be taken, as if aware that even this is part of the grand design. Another necessary step toward balance. The Ancient One's reluctance to give up the Time Stone fades when she learns of Strange's plan, suggesting she understands the stone's greater purpose. If this theory is true, it adds a layer of inevitability to the events of the MCU. The hero's struggles, Thanos' quest, and even the snap itself were all part of a grand design orchestrated by entities older than the universe itself. The Infinity Stones weren't just objects to be collected, they were the architects of their own story, guiding the universe toward a balance that only they could fully comprehend. The Wakandan secret, Black Panther knew about the multiverse. The theory that T'Challa and the leaders of Wakanda had knowledge of the multiverse long before it became a crisis adds a fascinating dimension to the secretive African nation. It suggests that Wakanda's technological advancement wasn't just about vibranium, but about understanding the deeper nature of reality itself. Wakanda's isolation from the rest of the world has always been portrayed as a protective measure, a way to shield their vibranium resources from exploitation. But what if this isolation served another purpose? What if the Wakandas, through their advanced understanding of vibranium and its properties, had discovered the existence of the multiverse and the dangers it posed? The evidence for this theory lies in subtle details throughout Black Panther and other MCU films. The Wakandan technology, particularly their use of vibranium, often seems to operate on principles that defy conventional physics. The heart-shaped herb that grants the Black Panther his powers creates a spiritual connection to the ancestral plane, a realm that exists outside normal space and time. This suggests the Wakandans have long understood that reality is more complex than it appears. Furthermore, Shuri's technological innovations often seem years ahead of even Tony Stark's creations. Her understanding of energy manipulation and consciousness transfer, as seen when she attempts to remove the Mind Stone from Vision, hints at knowledge that goes beyond conventional science. Could this advanced understanding come from awareness of how these principles work across different realities? The astral plane and beyond the ancestral plane that T'Challa visits after consuming the heart-shaped herb may be more than just a spiritual realm. It could be a gateway to understanding the multiverse. When T'Challa communes with his ancestors, he's experiencing a form of reality that exists outside normal space-time, similar to how the multiverse operates with parallel dimensions existing simultaneously. This connection to the ancestral plane might have given generations of Black Panthers insights into the multiverse's existence long before the events of Endgame or Loki brought it to the forefront of the MCU. The Wakandan tradition of passing down knowledge from one Black Panther to the next would have preserved this understanding, keeping it secret from the outside world. Wakandan's advanced technology, particularly their virtual reality systems and Kimoyo beads, also suggests a deeper understanding of how information and energy can transcend physical limitations. The beads can project three-dimensional images, store vast amounts of data, and connect users across great distances, technologies that might have been developed through an understanding of how information exists across multiple realities. If T'Challa and the Wakandan leadership did indeed know about the multiverse, it would explain their cautious approach to engaging with the outside world. They would understand that threats could come not just from other nations, but from other realities entirely. Their decision to finally open Wakanda to the world at the end of Black Panther might have been motivated by recognizing that multiverse threats would require a united response from all of humanity. The Guardians of Knowledge. This theory also casts Wakanda's role in the Battle of Infinity War in a new light. When Thanos' forces attack Earth, the Avengers take their stand in Wakanda. This could be because the Wakandans, with their knowledge of the multiverse, understood the true stakes of Thanos' plan better than anyone else. They knew that the snap wouldn't just affect their reality, but could have implications across the multiverse. The theory that Wakanda knew about the multiverse also connects to the role of Bashenga, the first Black Panther. According to Wakandan legend, Bashenga was a shaman who received a vision from the panther goddess Bast, leading him to the heart-shaped herb. What if this vision wasn't just about protecting Wakanda, but about preparing for threats that transcended their reality? Throughout Wakandan history, their leaders have maintained a delicate balance, advancing their technology while preserving their traditions. This balance might reflect their understanding of the multiverse's nature, where change and stability must coexist. By keeping their knowledge secret, they protected not just their nation, but potentially the stability of their reality. If this theory is true, it adds a new dimension to T'Challa's character and the role of Wakanda in the MCU. They weren't just advanced, they were guardians of knowledge that the rest of the world wasn't ready to comprehend. Their secrecy wasn't just about protecting vibranium, it was about protecting reality itself from forces that could tear it apart. The quantum realm's true purpose: a prison for cosmic entities. The theory that the quantum realm was originally designed as a prison for dangerous cosmic entities adds a sinister undertone to what seemed like a fascinating scientific frontier. This interpretation suggests that the microscopic dimension isn't just a strange place where time and space behave differently. It's a carefully constructed containment system for beings too powerful to exist in our reality. The evidence for this theory begins with the quantum realm's unusual properties. As established in Ant-Man and the Wasp, the quantum realm is a place where the normal laws of physics don't apply. Time works differently there. Space is warped, and reality itself seems malleable. These aren't just interesting scientific anomalies, they could be deliberate safeguards designed to disorient and contain powerful entities. The presence of Janet Van Dyne in the quantum realm for decades without aging significantly suggests that the realm preserves those within it, keeping them in a state of suspended animation. This preservation effect would be perfect for containing immortal or long-lived cosmic threats, keeping them trapped in a place where they can neither die nor escape. Furthermore, the difficulty in accessing the quantum realm, requiring specific technology or circumstances, could be interpreted as a security measure. The quantum tunnel developed by Hank Pym isn't just a scientific breakthrough. It might be an accidental key unlocking doors that were never meant to be opened. The time vortexes and trapped entities. One of the most telling pieces of evidence for this theory is Janet's warning about time vortexes in the quantum realm. These mysterious phenomena could be more than natural features. They might be pathways created by imprisoned entities attempting to escape. The warning to avoid them suggests that these vortexes could connect to dangerous areas within the realm where these entities are contained. The theory also explains the strange beings glimpsed in the quantum realm during Scott Lang's journeys. These aren't just exotic life forms that evolved in this microscopic dimension. They could be lesser guardians or servants of the imprisoned entities, or perhaps even fragments of the entities themselves, taking form in the only reality available to them. If the quantum realm is indeed a prison, the question becomes who built it. The most likely candidates would be ancient cosmic beings like the Celestials, who have demonstrated the power to manipulate reality on a fundamental level. The Celestials, known for their role in creating the Infinity Stones and shaping entire planets, would have both the motivation and ability to create such a prison for threats even they couldn't destroy. This perspective casts Ant-Man's adventures in a new light. His journeys into the quantum realm weren't just scientific exploration, they were unwitting intrusions into a cosmic prison, potentially disturbing entities that were meant to remain contained. Each time the Avengers used the quantum realm for time travel in Endgame, they might have been weakening the barriers keeping these entities trapped. The looming threat. The theory that the quantum realm is a prison also provides a perfect setup for future MCU threats. As the barriers between our reality and the quantum realm weaken due to repeated travel and experimentation, these ancient imprisoned entities could begin to influence our world or even escape entirely. This could explain the increasing multiverse problems seen in recent MCU entries. The events of Loki, WandaVision, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness might not just be coincidental timeline issues, they could be the direct result of destabilizing the quantum realm's containment properties, allowing these entities to reach out across realities. If this theory holds true, it transforms the quantum realm from a scientific curiosity into one of the most dangerous elements of the MCU. What began as a way for Ant-Man to shrink beyond the subatomic level becomes the potential source of threats that could dwarf even Thanos in their scope and power. The prison theory also adds a moral dimension to the Avengers' use of the quantum realm. Their time heist, while necessary to undo Thanos' snap, may have inadvertently set in motion events that could lead to even greater catastrophes. The price of saving half the universe may have been opening a door that was never meant to be unlocked, releasing entities so powerful that even reality itself was forged into their prison. The Skrulls' secret agenda, preparing Earth for Galactus. The theory that the Skrulls have been preparing Earth for the arrival of Galactus adds a chilling dimension to their seemingly benevolent presence in the MCU. While Captain Marvel and Far From Home portrayed the Skrulls as refugees and allies, this theory suggests their true motives may be far more complex and potentially sinister. The evidence begins with the Skrulls' unique ability to perfectly mimic humans, allowing them to infiltrate every level of society without detection. This infiltration, rather than being a simple survival tactic, could be part of a coordinated effort to assess Earth's defenses and gradually manipulate its development in preparation for Galactus's arrival. Talos, the Skrull leader introduced in Captain Marvel, is shown to be sympathetic and even heroic. But what if this is merely a facade? His position close to Nick Fury, one of Earth's primary defenders, gives him unprecedented access to information about Earth's heroes and defense capabilities. By the time of Far From Home, Talos is even impersonating Fury, putting him in direct control of how Earth responds to threats. The Skrulls' interest in Earth could stem from their knowledge of Galactus's feeding patterns. As a devourer of worlds, Galactus is drawn to planets rich in energy and life. Earth, having survived multiple alien invasions and cosmic events, has proven itself to be exceptionally resilient and energy-rich, making it a prime target for Galactus. The long game. If the Skrulls are indeed preparing Earth for Galactus, their strategy would be long-term and subtle. Rather than conquering Earth themselves, they would focus on ensuring it develops in ways that make it more appealing to Galactus. This could include 1. Encouraging the development and use of energy technologies that make Earth more visible to Galactus. 2. Subtly undermining potential defense systems that might repel Galactus. 3. Gathering intelligence on Earth's heroes to identify and neutralize those who might pose the greatest threat to Galactus. The theory suggests that the Skrulls aren't necessarily villains in the traditional sense. They may see themselves as serving a necessary cosmic function, helping Galactus find suitable worlds to consume in exchange for their own planets being spared. This arrangement would explain how the Skrulls have survived despite being a refugee species hunted by the Kree. The presence of SWORE in the MCU adds another layer to this theory. The organization dedicated to dealing with extraterrestrial threats could have been infiltrated by Skrulls at its inception. This would allow them to monitor and potentially redirect Earth's space defense efforts away from detecting Galactus's approach. The cosmic balance. This theory also connects to the broader cosmic themes of the MCU. Galactus in Marvel Comics isn't simply a villain. He's a necessary force of cosmic balance, consuming old worlds to enable the birth of new ones. The Skrulls may understand this cosmic role and see their actions not as betrayal but as serving a greater purpose in the universe's cycle of death and rebirth. If the Skrulls are preparing Earth for Galactus, it would explain their continued interest in the planet despite the resolution of their conflict with the Kree. Their presence isn't just about finding a new home, it's about fulfilling their role in a cosmic arrangement that has allowed them to survive as a species. The revelation of such an agenda would create a morally complex situation for Earth's heroes. The Skrulls wouldn't be simple invaders but beings caught in their own struggle for survival, serving a cosmic entity that, while destructive, plays a necessary role in the universe. This moral complexity would elevate the conflict beyond a simple battle between good and evil, forcing heroes to confront questions about cosmic balance and the price of survival. If this theory proves true, it would transform the Skrulls from allies into one of the most subtle and effective threats the MCU has ever seen. Not because they're inherently evil, but because their survival depends on sacrificing Earth to a force of nature beyond comprehension. The eternal conflict, Celestials versus Galactus. The theory that the Eternals were created not just to combat deviants but to prepare Earth for the Celestials' emergence while protecting it from Galactus adds a cosmic layer of complexity to the MCU. This interpretation suggests that Earth has long been caught in a tug-of-war between two of the universe's most powerful forces, the Celestials who seed planets with life to birth new Celestials, and Galactus who consumes worlds to maintain cosmic balance. The evidence for this theory begins with the Eternals' mission on Earth. While officially tasked with protecting humanity from deviants, the Eternals were actually ensuring Earth's population grew sufficiently to provide the energy needed for the birth of a new celestial Tiamat. This hidden agenda reveals that the Celestials view Earth as an investment, a cosmic incubator for one of their own. But if Earth is valuable to the Celestials, it would also be a target for Galactus, whose role in the cosmic ecosystem is to consume energy-rich planets. The Celestials, aware of this threat, would need to protect their investment without revealing their true intentions to the inhabitants of Earth. The Eternals, with their godlike powers and immortality, would be perfect guardians against not just deviants but also the threat of Galactus. This cosmic conflict would explain why the Eternals were instructed not to interfere in human conflicts unless deviants were involved. Their true purpose wasn't to guide human development for its own sake, but to ensure humanity survived and thrived enough to feed the growing celestial within Earth. Any interference in human affairs risked drawing attention to Earth, potentially attracting Galactus's notice prematurely. The cosmic chessboard. If Earth is indeed a battleground between Celestials and Galactus, many events in the MCU take on new significance. The emergence of superpowered beings on Earth could be seen as the Celestials' way of creating additional defenses against Galactus. By allowing or even encouraging the development of heroes like the Avengers, the Celestials ensure Earth has protectors who can potentially repel Galactus when he eventually arrives. The theory also explains why the Eternals were kept in the dark about their true purpose. If they knew they were merely shepherding humanity toward eventual sacrifice to birth a Celestial, they might rebel, as indeed some did when they learned the truth. By compartmentalizing information, the Celestials ensured the Eternals would protect Earth from all threats, including Galactus, without questioning why. The presence of a Celestial's embryo within Earth would make the planet especially attractive to Galactus, who feeds on the energy of worlds. A planet incubating a Celestial would contain vastly more energy than an ordinary world, making Earth not just a meal but a feast for the devourer of worlds. This would explain why the Celestials would need especially powerful guardians like the Eternals to protect it. This cosmic conflict also sheds light on why beings like the Watcher observe Earth so closely. The planet isn't just another world, it's a crucial piece on a cosmic chessboard, with two of the universe's most powerful forces competing for its future. The outcome of this conflict could have implications that ripple across the multiverse. The coming confrontation. If this theory holds true, it sets the stage for an epic confrontation in the MCU's future. With Tiamat's emergence prevented by the Eternals' rebellion, Earth is now in an unprecedented position, no longer serving its purpose as a celestial incubator, but still containing the immense energy that would have fueled Tiamat's birth. This energy, now untethered from its original purpose, would make Earth an even more tempting target for Galactus. Without the Celestials' active protection, as the Eternals have now broken from their programming, Earth would be more vulnerable than ever to Galactus's hunger. The theory transforms the Eternals' decision to stop Tiamat's emergence from a simple act of protecting humanity into a far more complex choice with cosmic consequences. By preventing a new Celestial's birth, they may have inadvertently made Earth more vulnerable to Galactus, trading one cosmic threat for another. This interpretation adds layers of moral complexity to the MCU's cosmic landscape. Neither the Celestials nor Galactus are simply evil. Both serve necessary functions in the universe's ecosystem. The Celestials create new life and new worlds, while Galactus maintains cosmic balance by consuming excess energy. Earth's heroes, including the Eternals, are caught between these forces, trying to carve out a path that allows humanity to survive amid conflicts that span billions of years and countless worlds. If the Eternals were indeed created as guardians against both deviants and Galactus, their story becomes even more tragic. Immortal beings created as pawns in a cosmic game, forced to choose between serving their creator's agenda or protecting the humanity they've come to love, all while a greater threat looms on the horizon. The multiversal mastermind, Kang's grand design. The evidence for this theory begins with the events of Loki, where He Who Remains, a variant of Kang, reveals that he ended a multiversal war between his variants by establishing the sacred timeline. While he claims this was to prevent further conflict, this theory suggests a more selfish motive. By controlling the flow of time, He Who Remains wasn't just preventing war, he was systematically eliminating any timeline where potential rivals to his power might emerge. Consider how the TVA operates under He Who Remains' direction. They don't just prune random timeline branches, they specifically target variants who deviate from the predetermined path. This selective pruning could be interpreted as Kang methodically removing anyone who might develop the ability to challenge him across the multiverse. The theory gains further credibility when we examine the events of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where we meet Kang the Conqueror exiled to the quantum realm by his variants. His exile suggests that the variants of Kang are constantly working to undermine each other, with each seeking to be the supreme version across all realities. The multiversal chess game. If Kang is indeed manipulating events across the multiverse, then many pivotal moments in the MCU take on new significance. The Avengers time heist in Endgame, for instance, could have been part of Kang's grand design, creating the necessary nexus events to fracture the sacred timeline and set the stage for his emergence as the dominant force in the multiverse. This theory also explains why certain characters seem to have been systematically removed from the playing field. Iron Man's death, Vision's destruction, and other key losses might not be coincidental but calculated moves by Kang to eliminate beings with the potential to challenge his technological supremacy. By removing these intellects from the board, Kang ensures that no one can develop the time travel technology needed to oppose him. The appearance of the Council of Kangs in the post-credit scene of Quantumania further supports this theory. The gathering of countless Kang variants suggests not just cooperation but competition, each variant seeking to outmaneuver the others in a complex game of multiversal chess. Their goal isn't just conquest but the elimination of any other Kang who might claim supremacy. The ultimate puppet master. This theory transforms our understanding of recent MCU events. What if the multiverse wasn't fractured by accident but by design? The actions of Sylvie in killing He Who Remains, Doctor Strange's spell in No Way Home, and Wanda's reality manipulation in WandaVision might all be part of a grand scheme orchestrated by Kang to create chaos across the multiverse. Chaos that only he has the knowledge to navigate and exploit. If true, this makes Kang far more dangerous than any previous MCU villain. Unlike Thanos, whose goal was a misguided form of balance, Kang seeks absolute control not just of one universe but of all universe. His manipulation extends beyond physical confrontation to the very fabric of reality itself. The theory also adds significance to the quantum realm's prominence in recent MCU stories. As a place outside normal time and space, the quantum realm would be the perfect vantage point from which Kang could observe and manipulate the multiverse. His exile there might not have been a punishment but a strategic position, allowing him to work unseen while other variants battle for supremacy in more visible realms. This multiversal manipulation would make Kang not just a conqueror but a puppeteer, pulling strings across infinite realities to ensure his ultimate victory. The heroes of the MCU wouldn't just be fighting a time-traveling warlord, they'd be opposing a being who has already calculated their every move across countless timelines, eliminating any reality where they might succeed. If this theory holds true, the coming conflict with Kang won't just be a battle for Earth or even the universe, it will be a struggle for the fate of all possible realities, with Kang having already spent eons ensuring that the odds are stacked firmly in his favor. The Secret War, Battleworld, and the Multiverse. One of the most intriguing theories surrounding the future of the MCU involves the potential adaptation of the Secret Wars storyline, which could see Kang's multiversal manipulation culminate in the creation of Battleworld, a patchwork planet composed of fragments from different realities. In the comics, Secret Wars involves the collapse of the multiverse, with pieces of different universes being salvaged and stitched together to form Battleworld, ruled by Doctor Doom. However, the MCU version could replace Doom with Kang as the architect of this new reality, using his mastery of time and the multiverse to create a domain where he reigns supreme. This theory suggests that Kang's ultimate goal isn't just to conquer individual timelines, but to collapse them all into a single reality that he can control absolutely. By engineering conflicts across the multiverse, Kang could be weakening the barriers between realities, setting the stage for their eventual collapse and the birth of Battleworld. The evidence for this theory can be found in the increasing emphasis on multiversal threats in recent MCU projects. From the timeline branches in Loki to the multiverse, rifts in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, the MCU has been steadily building toward a crisis point where the walls between realities begin to crumble. If this theory proves correct, it would transform Kang from a conqueror into a godlike figure, reshaping reality itself to suit his vision. The heroes of the MCU would face not just the challenge of defeating Kang but of restoring the multiverse to its proper state, a task that might require sacrifices even greater than those made in the fight against Thanos. The mutant mystery, X-Men's hidden integration, the theory that mutants have always existed in the MCU but have been deliberately hidden or suppressed, adds a fascinating layer to the universe's expanding narrative. With Disney's acquisition of Fox bringing the X-Men into the MCU fold, fans have wondered how these iconic characters will be integrated into a world that has never mentioned them. This theory suggests that mutants, humans born with the X gene that grants them superhuman abilities, have always been part of the MCU but have remained in the shadows, either by choice or through external forces. Several possible explanations support this theory. First, there's the possibility that a powerful entity has been manipulating reality to keep mutants hidden. This could be Wanda Maximoff, whose reality-altering powers in WandaVision demonstrated her ability to reshape the world on a massive scale. Perhaps in a moment of crisis, Wanda unconsciously altered reality to protect mutants, including herself, potentially retconned as a mutant rather than being created by the Mind Stone. Alternatively, Charles Xavier, the world's most powerful telepath, could have used his abilities to shield mutants from public awareness, creating a psychic blind spot in the collective consciousness of humanity. This would explain why even organizations like S.H.I.E.L.D. and S.W.O.R.D. have never acknowledged mutants. They literally cannot perceive them due to Xavier's influence. Another compelling aspect of this theory involves the snap and the blip. When Thanos eliminated half of all life and the Avengers later restored it, the massive energy release could have activated dormant X genes in the population, leading to a sudden emergence of mutants in the post-Endgame world. This would provide a clean entry point for mutants without requiring extensive retconning. The theory gains further credibility when we consider the introduction of Kamala Khan in Ms. Marvel, where her powers were connected to her genetic makeup rather than being purely technology-based as in the comics. This subtle shift could be laying the groundwork for the revelation that certain individuals in the MCU have always had genetic potential for powers, the very definition of mutants. If this theory proves true, it would dramatically reshape our understanding of the MCU's history. Events we've witnessed might take on new meaning when viewed through the lens of mutant involvement. The revelation that mutants have always existed would add depth to the universe while opening countless storytelling possibilities for the future.